If you've been doing a lot of personal growth or work on yourself and you don't quite feel like mentally you're feeling as on top, maybe you're not feeling as confident or self-loving about yourself as you'd like to, you're not performing to your best. Well, today I'm going to be talking about the mental diet and the impact that can have on you. And if you stay until the end, I have an extra point for you then as well. Now, before we dive in today, I just want to mention that if you want to keep up to date of all the latest episodes, never miss any, all you got to do is click in the link below, and you also get a free weekly confidence tip when you sign up to our free weekly newsletter. Okay, so for me, I've been noticing patterns in myself, being very, very self aware, particularly recently. When I say recently, I mean last year or so. And I really started to pick up on my patterns because it's there's never an end point, by the way. I used to think there's like an end point, you've made it in life and that's it, right? No, that's basically when you, as they say, graduate from this earth. That's when you pass away, is the end point. Up till then, or is it? Like, who knows where we go to after that? However, as we're going through life, there's always going to be challenges, there's always going to be opportunities to grow. And some of them, yeah, of course, it's going to be really hard to deal with at the moment, and you need that support and guidance, of course. Yeah, I've I've been guilty of this as I've been growing, and it's realizing sometimes my mental diet is not as strong as it could be. And sometimes I fall off my physical diet as well. Now, what do we mean by this? Well, our physical diet is about like what we're consuming with like food, right? Making sure you get enough of the right stuff and not so much the bad stuff. Not saying you shouldn't have treats, right? I have treats. I had a pizza the other day, and it was like a once a week kind of pizza, and I actually fell asleep after it. Anyway, but the majority of the time, I like to have a good physical diet. Well, the thing is, what I've noticed I never used to think about is the mental diet. What am I consuming mentally and I may not even be aware of? And I've had to really do a little bit of a stock take on this recently. What am I consuming? And I'm like, yeah, but I don't watch the news, and I'm super against listening to the news because that's just bombarding your brain with fear and negativity, right? Um, and it's designed that way to keep you hooked. That's what I understand by it, and that's what I believe by it, right? But also things like, which I'm still working on this, but social media can be one. Now, there's some great stuff if you follow great accounts and people inspire you, you get some great tips. It's a tool, right? It can be used in a good or bad way, right? But if you're using social media and comparing yourself to someone else, it's not going to be such a good mental diet, right? Now, I found myself scrolling through just like boredom and things like that. I've also felt, and I felt really exhausted because consuming so much energy. And I've also felt like uplifted from listening to good quality information, going for runs, doing some breath work and things like that, things that really bring me to life. So that's what I just wanted to kind of share about my perspective. Now, think of this like an analogy. You do a bit of personal growth work. You go to a seminar, you do the exercises, and you feel great coming off it. Fantastic. Well done. Or maybe you're reading a book, or maybe you're saying some positive things yourself in the morning, right? Whatever it is, right? And then you start doing something bad. That's not going to be, you start consuming like social media for comparing yourself to others. Maybe you watch the news or something like that. Maybe you just hang out with someone who just wants to bitch about everyone or everything all day, right? Well, in that case, that's the same as going to the gym regularly and then going to McDonald's regularly to eat like supersized meals or even just anything they got on the menu, to be honest, right? You basically you've sabotaged everything bit of good work you've just done, right? You went and worked out. Maybe it's in the gym, maybe it's running, whatever it was, and then you've gone to McDonald's. Well, the same is with your mental diet. If you're like reading maybe a positive book, maybe listening to a good podcast, which thank you, you're doing that right now to lift you up. Or maybe you're saying some positive things, maybe doing a bit of journaling, connecting yourself. Amazing work, fantastic. Whatever it is for you, maybe it's a bit of meditation. And then you spend the next hour scrolling social media and comparing yourself to others, listening to something negative or hanging out with that person who just down about life and everything. That's exactly the same as the physical example of going to McDonald's, right? And we don't think about this. That's what it's mentally doing. And that's why you are probably not progressing. The problem is, as much as you want to be, progressing as much as you want to be. The problem is, I've discovered is I've been very unaware of what I was consuming mentally half the time because we're so busy we don't even think about it. Right now, are you going to go through life and never hear anything negative or never have to experience any kind of like negative news or social media and things? No, that's impossible, right? Yeah, the majority of the time you've got to be very aware of what you're consuming. I personally found, and I'm gonna ask you this: how does it feel when you've been like listening to things that don't make you feel good regularly? Well, if you're anything like me, it didn't do me any favors. So I want to keep this short and sweet, really. And it's more about awareness than anything in today's message. Because when you've got a good mental diet, that's going to feed you to feel good and therefore take good actions. And that impacts, for me, my physical health as well. Because when I'm feeling good, I'm optimistic, hanging out with the right people, and getting that impact into my psychology being my thoughts consciously and unconsciously, the words and pictures I have in my head, I start taking good actions like doing more exercise, eating the right things as well. So it can really impact my physical diet by my mental diet. So here's some short tips. Number one, start taking an inventory. Start like just noticing day to day, do it for a week. What the majority of the time are you consuming? What is your mental diet? The second one, what do you need to add in more to it? And don't make it complicated because, as Tony Robbins quoted, complexity is the enemy of execution. So if you're like trying to add in too many things, it's going to exhaust your brain and you're going to give up. So do 1 to 3 things that you can add in to your mental diet. Maybe it's something you're not doing, but you've been meaning to do. And maybe it's even just 5 minutes of it. Maybe it's 5 minutes of meditation a day where you connect with yourself. Maybe it's talking to yourself in the mirror in a loving way. Maybe it's reading a book. Maybe it's listening to a podcast. Whatever it is, what are the 1 to 3 things you want to add in daily to your mental diet? And then the third one, what do you need to remove or reduce, right? Sometimes something's a bad habit, it's terrible for us. We can't just kick it out of lives because we've got a little bit of an addiction to it. It's like, I probably can't speak to that because I've never smoked, but smoking can be an addiction, and smokers know they shouldn't smoke. They know it's not healthy for them, but it's an addiction. There's many different types, and they find like some people quit, they find certain ways, right? So maybe there's a phase approach if you need to remove or reduce something, right? Maybe instead of 4 hours of screen time a day, you reduce it down to 2 and then to 1 and then to less than that, right? So what do you need to remove or reduce in terms of getting rid of something negative or reducing something negative? Because maybe it's not possible to completely wipe it out. So therefore you can have a stronger mental diet. And I've got an extra point for you, and it's just a little bit of a process I personally use that really works for me. Just for that, though, I want to mention again that if you want to keep up to date with the latest episodes, never miss any of them, and you want a weekly confidence tip, all you got to do is hit the link in the show notes below to subscribe to our newsletter for absolutely free. Again, my bonus point is really what I like to do is keep a list of lessons in my phone. All right. So what I do, if you can't see, I'm holding my phone, but I don't know why I'm holding my phone up because I think everyone knows what a phone is, right? Anyway, so at the end of the day, I get my phone and well, through the day, I've got my phone and I've got like on my notes section, I write like lessons I've learned from the day. That might be in like my sales, it might be in like relationships, it might be general, right? And I keep a log of those things that have showed up, which give evidence of like, oh, I was in a good state and this showed up. That goes kind of more into a spiritual, scientific perspective, which I won't go down that rabbit hole, but I believe in and I keep evidence of those kind of things. But one of the things I record on it is actually what made me feel good and what made me not feel so good. And that's kind of like a general like lesson, right? Okay, so the other day, for example, I had a large pizza and I knocked myself out, right? Didn't literally knock myself out, but I went to sleep for a long time, which shows me that if I'm having junk food like that, it's really energy consuming on my system. So therefore, don't have any big tasks planned after you have a pizza, right? Or I had maybe one too many coffees the other day, or it's a particular type of coffee, and therefore I felt really anxious, or stressed. My stress levels went up. Maybe I wasn't able to connect in meditation when I had something else. Just start noticing, making a log of how you're feeling and actually what you've been doing. So maybe you've been listening to like a motivational speaker like Les Brown or someone for an hour, and suddenly you start automatically taking some empowering emotions, because the more you can pay attention to your own behavior, the more likely you're going to start acting on it when you become self-aware. So that's just something you can do. Collect lessons through the day on your phone. And then what I do at the end of the day is I write them into a journal, and then each, just in the back, just I write it down physically, so I can actually, because there's some science around that actually when you write something down, you're more likely to remember it. However, when I'm on the move, it's not as possible to do so. So I write it on my phone. And then that allows me to remember something twice. And then at the end of the week, I will read all of my journal. Sounds like a bit of a process, but it's really not. You're just noting things on the go. And how much time do we spend scrolling on the phone? Let's be honest. Yeah. And then at the end of the day, I'll just remind myself of it. And then I'll remind myself of all of them at the end of the week. So it's a pretty simple process, but it really allows me to pay attention and be more self aware of things like my mental diet. So that's what I got for you today about mental diet and the real importance of it. So I want to thank you for being here. You're improving other people's lives by being the best you. And remember, you are in control of your own self-esteem and confidence.